So imagine you're just standing on a train platform, right?
Yeah.
And you're just watching this express train completely blast past you. You look up at the departure board, and every single exciting destination just says departed.
Oh, man. That is a terrible feeling.
It really is. That sinking feeling, that absolute certainty that you've somehow just completely missed your window in life. I mean, that is an entirely universal experience.
Absolutely universal, yeah.
So today, we are actively dismantling that too late myth. For this deep dive, our mission is really to unpack that nagging, heavy feeling of, I'm too old, and discover how to actively rewire that mindset.
And we have a fantastic case study today to help us do exactly that.
We do. We're looking at a narrative from the Easy English podcast, and it's titled, It's Never Too Late, Sarah's Story of Growth.
It's just an incredibly useful narrative because it takes this very abstract, intimidating psychological concept, and it really grounds it in a deeply relatable everyday life.
Right.
Like, we aren't looking at some billionaire entrepreneur here. We're looking at a normal person hitting a wall.
Exactly. So let's meet our protagonist. This is Sarah. She's 42 years old, working in a small office right in the center of her city.
Mm-hmm.
And if you looked at Sarah's life from the outside, you'd probably say she's doing great. Her life looks peaceful. She's got a stable job, supportive friends, a really comfortable apartment.
But on the inside, it's a different story.
Completely. On the inside, she's dealing with this hollow feeling that she is just profoundly unfulfilled.
Yeah, she is haunted by the ghost of what her life could have been, and she feels completely paralyzed to change it. That's the core tension we're looking at here.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can understand how Sarah actually changes her life, and spoiler alert, she does manage to do it, we first have to examine the mental trap that was keeping her stuck in this identical, repetitive, daily routine.
Right. We have to look at the baseline.
Exactly.
And that baseline is the definition of a rut. It's comfortable, sure, but it is a trap. I mean, neurologically speaking, she is living on autopilot.
It is absolute clockwork. She wakes up at the exact same time every day. She drinks her coffee.
Yeah.
She goes to work. She comes home, makes dinner, watches television, and goes to bed. Wash, rinse, repeat. Every single day is almost identical to the last.
Which means she isn't encountering anything new.
Right.
So her brain isn't encountering novel stimuli, and therefore she isn't building new neural pathways. But the real friction, like the active damage, that actually happens in the evening.
Oh, the evening doom scroll. Yes, this is where the conflict really lives.
Yeah.
Every evening, Sarah sits on her couch, just scrolling through social media on her phone.
As we all do.
Right. And she sees old classmates traveling the globe. One friend just opened a successful business. Another one wrote a book.
What?
Somebody else is out there learning 3 languages. Another friend just crossed the finish line of a marathon.
And Sarah is a genuinely good person. She smiles for them. But deep inside, the disappointment in herself is just crushing her.
It's like she's watching a highlight reel of everyone else's lives playing on a massive screen, but she is stuck on a treadmill in a dark room.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
She's expending all this intense emotional energy just feeling terrible about herself, but she's not actually moving forward an inch. The scenery never changes.
What's fascinating here is how she internalizes those external observations. She isn't just saying, wow, they accomplished a lot. She whispers to herself, I should have done more.
Right.
And then that thought metastasizes into something much more dangerous. It becomes an absolute statement of fact. She tells herself, I'm too old, or, it's too late now.
People my age don't start over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once a belief like this takes root, the natural consequence is that a person simply stops trying.
It completely shifts from a passing thought into an identity. But here's my question. Why does that specific belief paralyze us so completely? It's almost like the brain acts a ruthless accountant, right?
Something like that.
If it calculates that the return on investment for a new skill is 0 because you're, quote unquote, too old, it just refuses to fund the project. It cuts off the budget entirely.
That is a perfect analogy. The brain is an energy conservation machine, honed by millions of years of evolution. Trying something new takes an immense amount of metabolic and psychological energy. If your core belief is that success in a new endeavor is impossible because you are too late, well, your brain will simply not allocate the calories required to attempt it.
It just shuts it down.
Right. Trying, when you genuinely believe failure is guaranteed, registers to your nervous system as a dangerous waste of resources. So the trap of comparison doesn't just make you sad, it literally turns off your biological drive to act.
It paralyzes the system entirely. So if the brain's accountant has frozen the budget, how do you overwrite that system? Because breaking out of this paralysis, it doesn't actually require quitting your job, moving to a mountain, and having some dramatic life overhaul.
No, not at all.
You do it by finding a tiny crack in the armor of that limiting belief. It just requires a shift in perspective.
Exactly. You just need a wedge to open the door a fraction of an inch.
Which brings us to a regular Saturday morning for Sarah. She decides to spend a quiet afternoon in a bookstore. And I really love this detail about her journey. She wasn't going there on a mission to change her life.
Right.
She wasn't seeking some self-help miracle. She just wanted to walk between the shelves because the smell of books made her feel calm. She was just looking to decompress.
She was seeking comfort, but she accidentally stumbled into a massive cognitive catalyst.
She wanders into the personal development section, and a title catches her eye. It's a classic. It's called The Magic of Thinking Big by David J. Schwartz.
A great book.
Yeah. She opens it up, and the very first page she reads has this sentence that just completely stops her in her tracks.
Yeah.
The quote is, "The size of your success is determined by the size of your belief."
And she reads it. And then she reads it again. And she just sits quietly with this one question filling her mind, which is, when did I stop believing in myself?
See, here's where it gets really interesting, because I have to push back on this a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
We hear these types of quotes all the time, you know? You see that exact phrase on inspirational posters in dentist offices. Just believe in yourself.
Right, totally.
It sounds like a complete cliche. So how does reading one sentence in a bookstore actually disrupt years of feeling inadequate?
It's a really crucial distinction to make. We have to separate a cliche from a cognitive pivot. The quote didn't magically fix her life. The poster didn't rewire her brain.
Right.
What the narrative shows us is that the quote prompted a crucial, disruptive moment of self-reflection. It wasn't the words themselves, it was the question those words forced her to ask.
Ah, I see.
By asking, when did I stop believing in myself? She acknowledges that the lack of belief is a choice she made at some point in the past.
So it's not an objective biological fact of being 42?
Precisely. It shifts the blame from time, which is an external force she cannot control, to her own internal narrative, which she absolutely can control.
And then she makes an even more profound shift. She starts asking new questions. Instead of declaring, I'm too old, she starts asking, what if my best years are ahead of me?
Yes.
What if I still have time? What if I start today instead of waiting another year?
And this is the vital first step of any genuine transformation. You have to change the internal narrative before you can change any external actions. You have to give your brain's accountant permission to allocate those calories to trying again.
And she does this in the gentlest way possible. She buys the book, she takes it home, and she commits to reading just 10 pages every evening before bed. Nothing more. She doesn't rush it.
It's a small, manageable proof of concept to herself.
Right. So the cognitive pivot is step one. It's a beautiful spark. But a new belief without an execution strategy is really just a delusion, right? A spark burns out if you don't give it fuel. So how do we actually bridge the gap between I can do this and I am doing this? Let's look at how Sarah actually built an architecture, a system to sustain this new mindset.
Because hope without a system is just a wish.
Well said. So a few weeks later, she discovers another book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And from this, she learns a concept that completely reorients her approach. She realizes that big changes do not come from overnight success.
No, they never do.
They don't come from dramatic transformations. They come from small, consistent habits. She realizes she doesn't need to change her whole life today. She only needs to change today.
The scope of the ambition is narrowed down to just the next 24 hours.
So the following Monday, she implements this architecture. She wakes up just 30 minutes earlier than usual, and instead of grabbing her phone to start the doom scroll, she drinks a glass of water.
Small change, huge impact.
Yeah. She opens a notebook and she writes down 3 goals, and they are incredibly modest. 1, read 10 pages. 2, practice English for 20 minutes. 3, take a walk after dinner.
The list is almost too simple. And that is exactly why it is effective.
You know, we hear the compounding interest metaphor applied to habits all the time, that you're putting pennies in a bank account. But looking at Sarah's routine, it feels less like putting money in a bank and more like carving a new riverbed.
Ooh, I like that.
If you pour a tiny trickle of water, just 20 minutes of English practice, over the same patch of dirt every single day, eventually you carve a groove. The water naturally wants to flow there. Discipline is just the process of digging the trench.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that trench you're talking about is quite literally a neural pathway in the brain. The magic isn't in the specific tasks she chose. The magic is in the consistency.
Right.
What becomes incredibly clear in her journey is a phenomenal realization from the source, which is that discipline is infinitely more reliable than motivation.
Right, and we all know the cliche that discipline beats motivation. But what Sarah's story illustrates is the neurological necessity of that discipline, how removing emotion from execution actually bypasses the brain's natural resistance to change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are inherently volatile.
Yeah.
Some mornings, Sarah wakes up feeling energetic and ready to conquer the world. Other mornings, she's exhausted, she's stressed about work, and she just wants to hit snooze. If you rely on how you feel to get things done, you will inevitably fail, because humans simply do not feel good all the time. Relying on motivation is a trap.
I mean, you don't negotiate with yourself about whether you feel motivated to brush your teeth, you just do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Discipline is trusting an algorithm. It's saying, I'm going to read these 10 pages regardless of my emotional state. That is the actual secret to longevity in learning. Taking the emotion out of the execution protects the habit from your own bad days.
So she's got the mindset, she's dug the trench. Now we get to dive into the specific arena where Sarah applies these tools. She decides to conquer a new language, returning to English. This is something she had started years ago. She attended classes for a few months, but then life got busy and she just abandoned it.
Which is another classic trigger for that miss the boat feeling, you know? Picking up a thread you dropped a decade ago.
But she goes in with her new tactical approach. And her exact methods are incredibly practical for anyone listening who wants to learn a language as an adult. She starts with a book called Short Stories in English for Beginners, a teach-yourself book.
Okay.
The key is that the stories are easy enough to enjoy, but challenging enough to push her. And after each chapter, she says a short summary out loud.
Oh, nice.
In an empty room, making mistakes, forgetting words, feeling awkward. But instead of getting frustrated, she just laughs. She reminds herself, every expert was once a beginner.
And she pairs this with a vocabulary book, English Vocabulary in Use. But she fiercely guards her new system. She avoids the trap of trying to do too much.
Right, no overwhelming lists.
Exactly. She doesn't try to memorize hundreds of words. She learns exactly 5 new words a day.
5 words. The riverbed gets a tiny bit deeper.
And what's fascinating here is that limiting it to 5 words isn't just about time management. It's optimal for adult neuroplasticity.
Really?
Yeah. Children's brains are sponges. They passively absorb language. But adult brains are much more rigid. They require higher thresholds of novelty, relevance, and urgency to actually rewire themselves.
That makes a lot of sense.
So Sarah doesn't just memorize definitions. She contextualizes them. She creates her own personal sentences. When she learns the word opportunity, she writes, "Learning English gives me new opportunities." For confidence, she writes, "I want to become more confident when speaking English."
That's a highly strategic move. By attaching her new vocabulary to her immediate, urgent, emotional goals, she's basically tricking her adult brain into caring about the vocabulary. She's hacking her own memory retention.
Precisely. The brain says, oh, this word is relevant to my survival and happiness. I will store it.
And she takes it out into the world. While she's on her daily walks after work, she listens to an audio program, Effortless English. And she's walking through the public park, repeating sentences quietly to herself.
I love that.
People are walking right past her. But she realizes that people are usually too busy thinking about themselves to judge anyone else, which gives her immense freedom.
She is building momentum in a safe, controlled environment.
But you know, it's one thing to build this quiet, safe routine in your bedroom or on a solitary walk where it's just you and your discipline. Language is inherently social.
It is.
At some point, you have to take off the training wheels and actually talk to someone. So how does she navigate that jump? 3 months into this new disciplined life, Sarah joins an online English conversation class, a Zoom group. And this is the real climax of her journey.
It is the ultimate test of everything she has built.
She enters the virtual meeting, the gallery view pops up, and she instantly notices something that makes her stomach drop. Most of the students are significantly younger than she is.
Oh, right.
And in a flash, all those old ghosts come rushing back into the room. I'm too old, they're going to speak better than me, I don't belong here. She literally hovers her mouse over the leave meeting button.
That is so relatable.
Right. So what does this all mean? She built the habits, she dug the trench, she put in the work. But the very second she faces other people, the old insecurities return. Why is the social aspect of learning something new so utterly terrifying?
It's a massive ego threat response. As adults, our identity is almost entirely tied up in our competence. We are experts at our jobs. We know how to navigate our cities. We pay our taxes. We solve problems.
Yeah.
We spend decades building up this armor of competence. When you enter a beginner's classroom at Fluently 2, you have to voluntarily strip away that armor. You are actively choosing to be incompetent in front of a group.
You're fully exposed.
Completely.
Yeah.
And humans are deeply social, tribal creatures. Our fear of social rejection is tied to our evolutionary survival.
Yeah.
Being the weak link in a tribe used to mean you were left behind.
Wow, so it goes that deep.
It does.
Yeah.
So when Sarah sees those younger faces, her brain is cross-referencing her age with her lack of skill and triggering a biological alarm that she is vulnerable to social rejection. It triggers a profound imposter syndrome.
It's the ultimate test of her new belief system. Does she run and protect her ego, or does she stay and endure the vulnerability?
She stays. She combats the fear by actively recalling the architecture she built. She remembers a specific entry she wrote in her journal, "It's never too late to become the person you want to be."
The teacher smiles and asks her to introduce herself. And Sarah takes a deep breath and says, "Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. I'm 42 years old, and I'm learning English because I want to keep growing."
It's a moment of radical honesty. She names her age, she names her beginner status, and she names her purpose. By naming the elephant in the room, she completely diffuses the ego threat.
And what happens? The room gets quiet, and then everyone smiles.
Yeah.
One student says, "That's inspiring." Another one chimes in and says, "I hope I'm still learning new things when I'm 42.
It's a beautiful realization for Sarah. Our fear of judgment is almost always harsher and much louder than reality. She expected mockery or pity. Instead, they admired her courage. Overcoming this specific social hurdle was the final barrier.
It paves the way for the real-world payoff of her quiet, consistent efforts. Over the next few months, her English improves, her confidence skyrockets. She starts reading articles without translating every other word. She's watching videos with fewer subtitles.
That's huge.
And then comes this wonderful small moment of victory. She's out walking one weekend, and some tourists come up and ask her for directions, and she answers them. In English, the whole interaction lasts maybe 2 minutes. But when they walk away, she just cannot stop smiling. Because years ago, she firmly believed that opportunity had passed her by. But standing there on the street, she realizes that the opportunity wasn't gone. It was just waiting for her to begin.
This is a perfect example of a profound psychological shift in what we call her locus of control.
Let's clarify that for a second. Locus of control, meaning she shifted from an external locus, where life just happens to her and opportunities pass her by on a train, to an internal locus, where she genuinely believes her own actions dictate her outcomes.
Precisely. She stopped waiting for the world to offer her a chance, and she started generating her own chances. When you have an internal locus of control, you realize you are the driver, not a passenger.
Which brings us to her 43rd birthday. Exactly 1 year later, she returns to the same bookstore, she walks back to the personal development section, and she finds that same book, The Magic of Thinking Big. And she reflects on the woman she was a year ago, a woman who believed it was too late, a woman who had completely stopped dreaming.
Looking at her case, she barely recognizes that version of herself. And not because she won the lottery or moved to Paris. Her external life, her job, her apartment, they might look very similar.
Right.
But she has changed internally. She thinks differently, she processes challenges differently, and she lives differently.
Because learning has no age. Growth has no age. The only thing that actually limits us is the stubborn belief that it's too late.
This raises an important question for you listening right now. What have you been postponing? What is that thing you've tucked away in a drawer because you told yourself the window closed? Is it learning a language like Sarah? Starting a business? Taking control of your physical health? Finally, traveling?
Because the brutal, beautiful truth is that 1 year from now, you will be 1 year older no matter what you do. Time is going to pass regardless. But 1 year from now, you will either be so deeply glad you started today, or you will be standing in the exact same spot, wishing you had.
The day you think your life is over, or that your chances are spent, might actually be the exact day your new life begins. But you have to take the step.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that really builds on Sarah's story. When we feel too old to start something, we view our age and our past as a massive disadvantage.
We do.
We think we are weighed down by all these years, that we are carrying too much baggage. But what if the very experiences, the failures, the years of routine that make you feel too old are actually the exact unique advantages that will make you successful in this next chapter?
Oh, it's a powerful reframe.
You aren't starting from scratch. You're starting from experience. Sarah's discipline to read 10 pages a day and learn 5 words didn't come from nowhere. It came from the maturity of a 42-year-old woman who knew how to commit to a routine.
Right,
She
absolutely.
couldn't have done that at 20. You have resilience, patience, and self-knowledge now that you never had when you were younger.
You are fundamentally better equipped to handle the beginner's journey now than you ever were before. The armor of competence you've built isn't a cage, it's a foundation.
Exactly. So the next time you feel like you're standing on that train platform and the express train has blown past you, remember that the station isn't closed. You didn't miss your only chance. You just need to walk up to the ticket counter and book a new journey.
Start with one small step today. 10 pages, 5 words, a glass of water instead of a screen.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep questioning those limiting beliefs, and take that one small step today. We'll catch you next time.